Broadcasting from the heart of the continental United States and sailing the steel breeze of the World Wide Web. Ladies and gentlemen, it is idol smashing time tonight. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to our Thursday Hangout, where we talk Torah, all things Torah related, which means everything, because everything is Torah, much like everything is Kung Fu. Everything is Torah. I'm James at the Idol Smasher, and coming to you from my shack, my radio shack here, because it's just about the only place I can do this. Nothing fancy going on here, but fancy topics, good topics coming up here. I want to read from the Passover Haggadah, the Rational Passover Haggadah. I'm going to read a little Dennis Prager wisdom there, and get to the Haftorah as well, but I want to dive right into the ridiculousness of the influencers who have something to say on Israel and really don't know enough to say anything worth hearing on Israel. Are you free to do it? Yes. Should you do it? No. Why is Tucker Carlson such a jerk now when he was great on Fox? Writers. Okay? So not everything needs to be, not every thought needs to be, what's the word? Publicized. You don't need to get so wrapped up in things like Israel when you don't know anything about them. Now, the president did something I wholeheartedly disagree with when it comes to our attacks on the Iranian regime. He went into a ceasefire deal, and if there's anything we've learned over the past 50 years, I'll say even since 67, these people do not do ceasefires. They've broken every single one there that has been declared. Every single time. Hamas, Hezbollah, it doesn't matter. They give a ceasefire, and then they go right, and they regroup and start bombing again. Nothing changes. Nothing's done. Now, with that being said, Iran has never had its ass kicked like it has gotten. Not in centuries has it gotten plummeted like what the United States has done, with God's help. And while Israel is our ally, Israel state is our ally in this and our partner, I need to get something through to the people out there, the Tim Pools, the Steven Crowders and whatnot, my regulars that I watch all the time. These guys, they're good people, and I love their shows, and I love what they do, particularly a lot of with Crowder. But they also had this, Israel needs to shut up, let the children, children need to shut up while daddy makes the decisions, and I got news for you, baby. Israel is not our little bitch, okay? Israel is not our little bitch, and I got news for you, too, out there, all you quacks on the right. Who call themselves libertarians, a great number of them. These are people who stomp on those who carry the oldest anti-slavery text on the planet. Using language that Stalin or Hitler would use, or used. So it's interesting. We're not their bitch either, y'all. Okay, just remember the shat-ass job that Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter did with this situation over there. Look at Obama and all the money he sent to them, and all the money that Biden sent to them. And then when the war started after October 7th, Biden didn't want to give them their weapons that they paid for. He just said, no, you can't have them because you're going to attack people with them now. So, no, I got news for you. We aren't Israel's little bitch, whether you like it or not, okay? These are the people who criticize Israel on an hourly basis about the fact that nobody can criticize Israel without something bad happening to them. And anybody who just sees things clearly, and yes, I speak from primarily a religious perspective, but on this, I'm going straight as just a God-fearing American. Look, I don't want us over there as long as we have to be, but I'm glad that we are. And we need to come to realize that Israel declared war long before we ever got involved, okay? Yeah, we sell them weapons, okay? We give them discounts when they buy weapons, basically, so long as they just buy from us and nobody else. That's been the agreement. But they're at their own war. They declared war before anybody, was bombing their nuclear facilities. So all them, all my friends over here on the right need to stop and just say, whoa, whoa. Israel can do whatever the fuck it wants. I got news for you, folks. I got news for you. Israel is a sovereign nation. And we have no business telling them what to do. We are not their daddy, okay? Jews got to do what Jews got to do. And right now, unlike Americans who want to make peace with their enemies, see? And that's kind of the Christian way in many ways, is making peace with your enemies. Well, the Israelis are not interested in peace with their enemies. They're interested in victory, and that's it. Victory over their enemies, if any of them happen to survive. I don't think they should. I don't believe in taking prisoners of war unless you make them work for a living. You make slaves of them. Otherwise, kill them all, okay? That's what you got to do. Bombs away. Light them up. There was no ceasefire broken because Israel was at war with you frigs before we even decided to, before any of this even happened, before we even got Trump back in the office. Look, they're fighting a war, and it's existential. It's on their doorstep. And, just yesterday, on the 7th day of Pesach, which was interesting, they unleashed something about as impressive as the beeper walkie-talkie attacks. They hit 100 targets inside Lebanon within 10 minutes. That's never been done like this in the history of warfare. The world's going to start to realize God is with them. Are they perfect? No. Are some of them crazy? Yes. Are some of them wicked? Yes. Yes, they are human beings, and there's crazies in every bunch. Okay? We're warned about that. The Jews have been warned about that over and over. You read the prophets, and these aren't people saying, you're number one, go, you're the greatest jewel in the world, go, aren't you perfect? No, that's not what the prophets are telling the Jewish people, trust me. But they are worthy, and they have a place to fulfill. They're going to do it whether they like it or not. This is what and they're going to like it in the end. They have to. They have no choice, okay? It isn't about, I got news also for people. You don't like us getting involved with Israel and fighting Israel's war. And then we stop and they keep going and you still bitch. You still bitch. You still kvetch over the whole thing. First we're too involved and now Israel's not doing what we say. They run the world and everything. They run their little puppet masters of everybody. Everything's Jew. Yeah. You'll get mad at us getting involved in a war, a shared war, against the Iranian regime. You don't like us over there. We're fighting Israel's war. And then when Israel fights its own damn war, we get pissed off that they're not helping us stop the war. I think we've done enough. I think we can come home. Personally, I think you need to as far as reopening the strait, man, if you can't protect your own, whether you're Chinese or Russian, then you don't need to be in the strait. Drill your own damn oil. You don't need to siphon it off of that country. Those people have had enough. Well, they got the richest reserve. I'm telling you, there's enough energy for everybody. And two great nations like Russia and China should not be dependent upon that scree of a regime. It really, I think we need to leave. And I think we need to let Israel's going to do what Israel's going to do. And they don't need us. They don't need anybody, really. Because God's with them. This isn't about, we don't need to defend the Jew. The Jew's already got God on his side. I could stand up if I see a Jew getting beat up. I might step in between them and smack the aggressor on the head. But it's not needed necessarily. On an individual basis, this things go different. But on a national level, look, Israel's got to do what Israel's got to do. And they still have a lot of enemies over there. Getting rid of a lot of them, but they're still there. Maybe they can handle it from here on out. Maybe they don't need us. Maybe they never needed us. But it was good we did what we did. But the ceasefire was a dumb idea because they're not going to ceasefire. They didn't. They just hours afterwards. And Pete Hegseth said, yes, sometimes it takes the carrier pigeon a while. News doesn't travel that far when you're, you get this kicked out of you, and there's no communications down. There's no real leadership. It's all scurried about and spread about in individual little cells. See Dr. Strangelove. Sometimes the word doesn't get out to everybody. But, I could be wrong. Maybe this will actually work. We'll see. I think the Shah needs to go home. That's what the people of Iran want. Iran. Sorry, I say Iran. I say Arab too, so please forgive me. And Warsh. Sometimes I get caught saying that. But I resist Italian sausage. It's Italian. It's not Italy, it's Italy. It's not Italian sausage. I can't stand that one. But I'll still say Arab. Go figure. Look, you're just going to have to let Israel do what Israel's got to do. And if they're going to say, well, we're not going to have peace with America until Israel does this. Israel was already at war. And they're not attacking Iran, they're attacking Lebanon. Did you know that Hezbollah and terrorist activities is now illegal? From what I hear, they were actually planning to take over, hostile takeover of the Lebanese government because Lebanon's sick of it. And that's what Israel stopped. 100 targets in 10 minutes. Okay, we're done. Well, Israel's doing their own thing, man. Shut up, turds. All right. And what a day for it to happen. The parting of the Red Sea. Day 7 of Passover, which we're just coming out of, but we're still going to talk a bit about it. The 7th day of Passover, there are 8 days if you don't know. You have the Pesach, the Seder, on the eve of Passover, but then it's 8 days. And that's and that commemorates, the 7th day commemorates when the Red Sea parted. The Sea of Reeds, excuse me. I always say Red Sea because I love that line from Life of Brian. I'm kosher, Mom. I'm a Hebe. I'm a Red Sea pedestrian and proud of it. Well, that was the day that commemorated the Sea of Reed Pedestrian Day, and when the sea closed back on their enemies who were chasing them. What a day! What a day, huh? Good for them. Do what you got to do, Jews. Jews got to do what Jews got to do. And you've got a lot of support from a lot more people than you've had in a long time. And it took something this awful to start it. Now, your enemies, you're still going to have people out there that will lie through their teeth to you, my favorite viewer, will lie to you about what goes on over there and the truth of it. Our Parsha is not exactly talking about our Torah portions that we read are centered around Passover this week. And I was going to get out Exodus and get from there a little something from Dennis Prager, because I love giving little tidbits from his works. They're really great. He's talking more. He's on air more. He seems twice as serious as he's ever been. I don't need that. I need these, not my headphones. I need my glasses. I'm going crazy here. And it's just they're good works. They're good works. The Haggadah is a Seder, as you might know, means order. And the Pesach Seder is the order of the Pesach, how it is to be remembered. This is how God commanded that it be remembered every year throughout their generations forever. It is not a non-Jews holiday. I've heard of people having their own Seders, and not just Messi's. I've heard of other people doing their own Passover. It's not meant for the non-Jew, okay? The non-Jew fits in after, because that's when the mixed multitude went with Israel. Other slaves, Egyptians, people of of a lot of nations. I can't say all nations, but Egypt pretty much was the center of the world then. A lot of people from a lot of ethnicities and background saw where the wind was blowing, and that wind was blowing, that wind was God. How's that? Saw with their own eyes the works of the outstretched arm of God. Okay. So that's where we come in. The people like Noachides, Ben Noach, people like me, Gerim. But it's not ours to do. So if you're if you are a Christian and you do your own Passover, there's actually a time they made a second Passover. It's not a biblical Passover, but it's one that doesn't have to be. It's for people who missed the first one and want to have a Seder. Then you can invite the non-Jew to participate, but not at the actual, in Nisan, the month of Nisan, not the actual, Passover, the eve of Passover. So that doesn't mean we aren't witnesses. And we're witnessing now. What we're seeing now, you cannot deny. There's no way the Jews should have survived all this. There's no way. But you're being shown with your own eyes. Their God was right the first time. That's what you need to come to terms with. Any monotheist out there needs to come to terms with the fact. It's a hard thing to do, man. Take it from somebody who's rejected idolatry and studies Torah. It took a while for me to get this through my head, a long time. It'll make things easier when you do get it through your head. God was right the first time. God doesn't screw up. When God says to the Hebrews, when God says to Israelites, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen to you, but you're coming back, never to be uprooted again, and you're going to be my witnesses to God. If anybody can bear witness, it's going to be you. But at that time, by the time the end of days come, everybody will know there is God. And we're getting there right now. We're just starting to see it. Open your eyes. Okay? The purpose of the state of Israel is a means to an end. Okay, that little landmass over there is a means to an end. The government right now is a means to an end. It is not the end all of Israel, and it will not be the end all of Israel. Okay, there will be a temple, offerings will be reinstated, and the world can see that God is now, right now, not now, not that now that but now, this now, right? Steve Vai would put it, right now. That's the God, the living God, if you will. I love that phrase, the living God, because that's where Judaism comes into, where I think other religions kind of seem to shy away from, is God is in all things. All things come from God. All things, even the stuff we don't like. All things come from God. Navigate that. And here's a nice roadmap for you. And if you don't know where you're going, follow these guys. They'll lead you to the right place. So, without further ado, this is an essay, just a short essay in the back of the, and this, unlike the Rational Bible series, actually opens left to right. It's read left to right, like an actual, and it's got the Hebrew and English, which we don't have in the Rational Bible. So it's a really neat addition and a good introduction for the non-Jew, be you Christian or Muslim who might even be interested. This is good stuff. It's commenting on Exodus 4:23, I believe. Yeah. Now I will slay your firstborn son. See, just before this, God says, thus say this to Pharaoh, Israel is my firstborn son. I have commanded that you let him go so that he may worship me, and you refuse. So now I will slay your firstborn son. If you want to know how literal God means those words, you might want to call Jesus the Son of God, but he's no more or no less God in the flesh than you, or I, or any man, from the Moshiach to the thief. That's how you're made. How you choose is your different story. Few readers, even veteran students of the Bible, recall the killing of Pharaoh's firstborn son, which transpired during the 10th plague, was mentioned by God to Moses even before the plagues began. But Moses does not repeat those words to Pharaoh at this point. Perhaps he feared it would provoke Pharaoh to kill him. If that is indeed the reason Moses does not fulfill this explicit order from God, it would reveal that, at that point, he lacked complete faith in God. Complete faith God would protect him. He would come to faith later, but at this point, both God and his promises were quite new to Moses. In a sense, then, one could say even God had to establish credibility to be fully trusted. This is, by the way, I didn't read the title of this essay. It's the difference between belief in God and faith in God. Now, this raises the issue of trust or faith in God. There are two distinct meanings in this statement, I believe in God. The first meaning is I believe God exists. And the second meaning is I trust God. The first is the most common meaning, but it is not nearly as important as the second. To believe God exists, but not to have trust or faith in Him is the reason, or is the same as believing another person exists, but not having trust or faith in that person. You understand? The importance of trust in God has been so fundamental to American history, for example, that one of the two mottos of the United States since the 19th century has been, "In God we trust." The other is "E pluribus unum," Latin for "from many, one." The motto's words were carefully chosen. They were not, "We believe in God." So then, what does trust or faith in God mean? Does it mean, as many people assume, trusting God will help us whenever we are in trouble? Clearly, that cannot be the case. An innumerable number of people who have trusted in God have not been helped, certainly not in any direct way by God when they were in trouble. If God always intervened as we wished, there would be no unjust suffering in this world, no disease, no evil, and no death, and one should add no free will. But of course, there is an innumerable amount of unjust suffering. What we would see is unjust. If pain were water, the world would drown. Therefore, trust in God must mean, first and foremost, that we believe God cares about each one of us, and in some way He will ultimately do right by us. And that in turn means, in the final analysis, such injustice often prevails in this world, where there must be an afterlife, a life in which a just God makes sure justice prevails. But trust in God also means more than belief in an afterlife. Believers also trust that God will, at times of His choosing, intervene in this world, though not necessarily in the lifetime of any specific individual who might beseech God's intervention. For example, Jews have trusted for thousands of years that God would ensure Jews would one day return to their homeland. And they did. And of course, such trust does not only apply to Jews. Many people, myself included, this is Dennis Prager, believe God intervened in some way to inspire the founding of the United States of America, a country founded by Christians rooted in the Hebrew Bible. It is not surprising, therefore, that the only verse inscribed in the most iconic symbol of the American Revolution, the Liberty Bell, is from Torah. You shall proclaim liberty throughout your land for all its inhabitants. Leviticus 2, verses 5 through 10. America became the one true Judeo-Christian country. It's also the first country in history where a Jew is equal to everybody else in said nation. Jews were never quite equal anywhere they went, but here they were equal. Here they could run for office. Here they could have a business. Here they could be Jewish. Not bad off, is it? L'chaim. Now here's the thing that I would like to add to what Dennis is saying in that particular essay, and he speaks on it elsewhere. There's a mitzvot, a commandment in the Torah, of knowing God. Know God. And never says, believe in me. That's Christian stuff. He says, know me. Get to know God. The knowledge of God spreads over the land, which we're about to get to. Know God. Everything else will follow. I'm not really into the intervening and non-intervening. How do you know God intervenes? God hardens hearts. Pharaoh was a wuss. If Egypt had endured what the Hebrews endured, they'd have a wiped out country. Wait, they did. That was the whole point of the plagues. Justice. But it was to be made an example of, you see. Watch. Christian Bale. That not a bad movie of Gods and Kings. The Christian Bale Moses version. What do you want? I've done all this and nothing's come of it. What am I supposed to do? And the angel looks at him and says, watch. Something else, ain't it? Okay, one more thing I want to get to. So no God. That's it. One more thing. We get one more reading in our this week's set of readings. You could say Parsha, but it's Parshaim. Parshim? Parshaim? Help me out, Jews. Help me out. Plural Parsha. Plural readings. How's that? Several portions of the... But the Haftorah is one. There are many days, there are many passages all over the Torah that are read on the 8 days of Passover. This is the Haftorah for Achron, Shel, Pesach. It's from Malachim 2, 2 Kings, chapter 23. And then we're going to move over to, we'll go through verse 9, jump up to verse 21. And here we go. First I have to remove Rashi's commentary. Hang on. I got to read it as a unit. Okay. Get my glasses back on, do the Zoom thing. Here we go. Okay. The king summoned, and they assembled before him all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and all the people of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem were with him, and the priests and the prophets, and all the people from small to great. And he read within their hearing all the words of the scroll of the covenant that was found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood on his place and enacted the covenant before the Lord, to follow the Lord and to observe his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all their heart and soul, to fulfill the words of his covenant, which are written in this scroll. And all the people were steadfast in their acceptance of that covenant. And the king commanded Hilkiah, the high priest, and the priests of the second rank, and the guards of the threshold, to take out of the temple of the Lord all the utensils that were made for the Baal, and for the Asherah, and for the entire host of heaven. And he burnt them outside Jerusalem in the plains of Kidron, and he carried their ashes to Bethel. And he abolished the pagan priests, whom the kings of Judah had appointed, and who had burnt incense on the high places in the cities of Judah, and the environs of Jerusalem, and those who burnt incense to the Baal, to the sun, to the moon, and to the constellations, and to all the host of heaven. This is what is meant by Achim. Achim. No Cree, but Achim. You're going to have a lot of people, a lot of non-Jews are going to try to read an English translation of the Talmud. And there have been some mistakes over the years to just say Gentile. You can't just say Gentile anymore. It's like it's not Israel and then the rest of the world idolaters, which is the way it was before Romans inserted or injected their religion into Judaism to come up with their own new stuff, and long before Prophet Muhammad gave Islam to Islam to the people. That's the way it was. Anybody who wasn't Jewish wasn't monotheistic. The only monotheists around were Jews. And while I believe the Buddhists had awareness, there was no bringing heaven to earth quite the way it was in Judaism. A true ethical monotheistic religion. There was nothing else. So we say Akum now. People are going to say Gentiles. You're a Christian. You're not Jewish. You do your best to keep the commandments. You do your best to serve God. And you're in the best way you know how as a Christian, which I think most Christians in America do already. You're not necessarily an Akum. Yeah, you've got the JC idol that you worship, and that's a problem. It's problematic. But you don't deny God. You don't worship stars. You don't worship constellations. You don't worship Baal. You don't worship the sun and moon. See? Neither does Islam. Islam incredibly monotheistic. So non-Jew doesn't always. So whenever you read the word Gentile in a translation, 9 out of 10 times, Go and look at the Hebrew word that's used for that, and you're going to find everything I just read. I'm going to read it one more time. And he abolished the pagan priests whom the kings of Judah had appointed, and who had burnt incense on the high places in the cities of Judah and the environs of Judea, of Jerusalem, those who burnt incense to the Baal, or you could say any god for that matter, any, even the Buddha idol. Bad move. Burning incense to Baal, to the sun, to the moon, and to the constellations, and to all the host of heaven. So you've got the elements of earth and everything else, because it takes elements of earth to make an idol. Wood, stone, they say statues of stone, statues of wood. Achron usually means star worshiper, but that's no different than worshiping the elements of earth. That's what an Achron is. And that's who they're not 9 out of 10 times when you see the word Gentile, it's going to be referring to them. It's either them or Ger. Okay, it's either an Achron or you're a Gerim. You're a Nokri or you're Ger. All right, just want to make that clear. Okay, back to this week's Haftorah. And he took the Asherah out of the house of the Lord to the outside of Jerusalem, to the Kidron Valley, and he burnt it in the Kidron Valley, and he pulverized it into dust. And he threw its dust on the graves of the members of the people. And he demolished the houses devoted to pagan worship that were in the house of the Lord, where the women weave enclosures for the Asherah. And he brought all the priests from the cities of Judah, and he defiled the high places. Where the priests had burnt incense, from Geba as far as Beersheba, and he demolished the high places near the gates, the one that was at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the mayor of the city, which is the persons left in the gate of the city. However, the priests of the high places would not go up to the Lord's altar in Jerusalem, but they would eat unleavened cakes among their brethren. Something else I thought I might want to bring up here. Beersheba. That's one of the first places Iran bombed. Of all places to bomb. For a Muslim, in the name of God, in the name of Allah. You bomb Beersheba. That was a vineyard. That was an orchard. That was a well dug. And by Abraham. Out of the goodness of his heart for wayfarers, for people going by, they'd have a place to refresh and relax. That's the first place you people bomb. Iranian regime doofuses. Doesn't the Quran say that if God's not with you in war, God's not with you for other reasons? Y'all need to wake up. Persians are sick of your crap. So is the rest of the world. Continuing on, chapter 23, verse 21. And the king commanded all the people, saying, perform a Passover sacrifice to the Lord your God, as it is written in the scroll of the covenant. For such a Passover sacrifice had not been performed since the time of the judges who judged Israel, and all the days of the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. Except in the 18th year of King Josiah, this Passover sacrifice was performed to the Lord in Jerusalem. And also the necromancers and those who divine by the Jeboah bone, and the teraphim, and the idols, and all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, Josiah abolished, in order to fulfill the words of the Torah, which were written in the scroll that Hilkiah, the priest, had found in the house of the Lord. Now, before him there was no king like him, who returned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his possessions according to the entire Torah of Moses. And after him no one arose. Something similar happened with Moses, wasn't it? He read from the scroll of the covenant to all the people, which was Genesis, up to the point of where he goes up on the mountain. He read the book of the covenant. That was the covenant of all mankind. They had to get that we will do and we will obey first, before they get a Mishkan, before they become a national, before they become a unified nation, a kingdom even. They had to learn the law of the covenant first, the same covenant that applies to you and I, save circumcision. So I hope everyone had a good Pesach, victory in Israel. Victory in America. I don't want a ceasefire. I want victory. I want our enemies gone, like the dust that was left after grinding the Asherah tree. Dust. They can place it on their graves, but wind will... That's what we need to do. I don't like the ceasefire. We need victory. Full victory. Full victory in Israel. Full victory here in the US of A. May we see Hashem in our time. The days of the Messiah are here. Thank you all for watching. Any questions, comments, compliments, complaints, please feel free. Link to the Torah portion. I didn't say this, but it's down in the description below. We're here on broadcasting from a Rumble studio. It's also being broadcast on YouTube, on X, and you can find a link at the Orphans of Avraham group on Facebook. I'm James at the Idol Smasher. buymeacoffee.com/the Idol Smasher if you'd like to spruce up the show a little more. And I thank you so much for taking the time. We'll see you guys on the flip side. Shabbat Shalom.